Three members of the senior leadership team at the hospital where Lucy Letby carried out her crimes have been arrested on suspicion of gross negligence, manslaughter, police have said. Former nurse Lucy Letby served a 15 whole life orders after she was convicted of murdering 7 babies and attempting to kill 7 others, with 2 attempts on one of her victims at the Countess of Chester Hospital between June 2015 and 2016. Also on the programme, welfare cuts. What changes has the government made and will they appease Labour MPs? Last week saw the government announce a major climb down on their planned welfare cuts after backbench Labour MPs threatened to block plans. The Chancellor will now have to find an extra £3 billion to fund the U-turn, with the £5 billion original savings from the plans now only at £2 billion. And punk band Bob Vylan have said they are being targeted for speaking up after their comments during the Glastonbury show were branded anti-Semitic and are being probed by police. During the group's performance on Saturday, rapper Bob Vylan chanted "Death, death to the IDF."
This is STV Lunchtime News with Nina Hussain.
Good afternoon. 3 members of the senior leadership team at the hospital where Lucy Letby carried out her crimes have been arrested on suspicion of gross negligence manslaughter, the police have said. Former nurse Lucy Letby is serving 15 whole life orders after she was convicted of murdering 7 babies and attempting to kill 7 others, with 2 attempts on one of her victims at the Countess of Chester Hospital between June 2015 and June 2016. But the detective in charge says today's development does not impact Lucy Letby's convictions, but it focuses on the action or inaction of individuals concerning the hospital's response to the increased levels of infant fatalities. As our STV News reporter, Faye Barker, has the latest.
The Countess of Chester Hospital again at the centre of bleak investigations over the deaths of babies in their care. Cheshire Police say yesterday 3 people who were senior leaders here 10 years ago were arrested. In a statement, the force said 3 individuals who were part of the senior leadership team at the Countess of Chester Hospital in 2015 to 2016 were arrested on suspicion of gross negligence manslaughter. All 3 have subsequently been bailed pending further inquiries.
Hello, Lucy, is it?
Yes.
Hello, my name.
Former neonatal nurse Lucy Letby is currently serving 15 whole life orders for the murders of 7 babies and the attempted murders of 7 others. Detectives say the latest arrests don't impact her conviction. One of the doctors who helped catch Letby told ITV News in 2023 he'd repeatedly raised concerns with hospital bosses.
I think throughout this whole process, there have been opportunities for those people who are at the top of the Countess of Chester to be able to put their hands up and admit that they got it wrong.
It was only in March this year that the police investigation into corporate manslaughter was widened to gross negligence manslaughter.
The breach has to be very gross, really severe, basically demonstrating a significant disregard for human life. So an act of carelessness or negligence, simple negligence we call it, isn't sufficient. And within the healthcare arena, it is quite rare because the legal threshold, the bar, is very, very high.
The final report from the inquiry into events at the Countess of Chester Hospital is due to be published early next year. And while that and the police investigations are ongoing, the hospital said today that it would not be appropriate to comment further. Faye Barker, ITV News.
Last week saw the government announce a major climb down on their planned welfare cuts after backbench Labour MPs threatened to block plans. The Chancellor will now have to find an extra £3 billion to fund the U-turn, with the £5 billion original savings from the new plans now only at £2 billion. Plans to tighten the eligibility criteria for PIP will now only apply to future claimants from November 2026, while payments for the health element of the universal credit will now rise with inflation for current claimants. However, disability groups and many backbench Labour MPs remain deeply concerned about the impact of the cuts on future recipients, warning of a two-tier benefit system. The government's own poverty impact assessment released on Monday shows 150,000 people will be pushed into poverty by 2030 as a result of the cuts. Well, our political editor Robert Peston is here now, so what are the changes to PIP, Robert? Well, Nina, one of the most controversial parts of the package of welfare reforms was the plan to tighten eligibility for the personal independent payments. The government had planned to make it more difficult for people to claim PIP by raising the level of support they needed to qualify but the payments. But those changes will now only apply to future claimants after November 2026, while the current recipients will be protected. PIP is paid to support people with long-term physical or mental health conditions or disabilities, but it is not connected to whether or not you can work, and is designed to cover the additional costs associated with being disabled or long-term sick. The people are assessed for PIP through questions about their ability to do different daily tasks independently, with each task scaled on a scale from 0 to 12. They currently need to score 8 points across the 10 different categories for the standard rate, or 12 for the higher rate. But from November 2026, new claimants will need to score at least 4 points for one activity, rather than a lower number of points across multiple activities. For example, an individual who needs help washing their hair or their body below the waist would score 2 points and therefore no longer qualify. But needing help washing between the shoulders and waist is worth 4 points, meaning that would make someone eligible. As part of the concessions, the government also announced that a review into the PIP changes will be co-produced alongside disabled people, led by Disability Minister Stephen Timms. But on Monday, the government confirmed the review will not conclude until November 2026, which is when the changes to PIP eligibility for future claimants are due to come into effect. Many backbench Labour MPs are concerned about the chronology of the plans, calling on the government to delay the cuts until the Timms review has reported back. Okay, Robert Peston, thank you. Finally, punk band Bob Vylan has said they are being targeted for speaking up after their comments during a Glastonbury show were branded anti-Semitic and are being probed by police. During the group's performance on Saturday, rapper Bobby Vylan chanted death to the IDF, Israel Defense Forces. A statement posted on the group's Instagram page on Tuesday said, "Today, a good many people would believe a punk band is the number one threat to world peace. Last week, it was a Palestine pressure group. The week before that, it was another band. We are not for the death of Jews, Arabs, or any race or group of people. We are for the dismantling of violent military machine. A machine whose own soldiers were told to use unnecessary lethal force against innocent civilians waiting for aid. A machine that has destroyed much of Gaza." The statement added, "We, like those in the spotlight before us, are not the story. We are a distraction from the story, and for whatever sanctions we receive will be a distraction. The government does not want us to ask why they remain silent in the face of this atrocity, to ask why they aren't doing more to stop the killing, to feed the starving. The more time they talk about Bob Vylan, the less time they spend answering for their criminal inaction. We are being targeted for speaking up. We are not the first, we will not be the last. And if you care for the sanctity of human life and freedom of speech, we urge you to speak up too. Free Palestine." STV News understands that Bob Vylan has been dropped from the Cave Festival in France, where they are due to perform on Sunday. The UK's chief rabbi, Sir Ephraim Mervis, has described the BBC's handling of Bob Vylan's Glastonbury performance as a time of national shame. Writing on X, Mervis said, "The scenes of hateful rhetoric and glorification of violence seen at Glastonbury yesterday should be deeply disturbing for our entire society." He added, "The BBC's belated and mishandled response brings confidence in our national broadcaster's ability to treat anti-Semitism seriously to a new low. It should be trouble for all decent people that now only couch their outright incitement to violence and hatred as edgy political commentary, for those ordinary people to not only fail to see it for what it is, but to also cheer it, chant it, and celebrate it." And there you go, that is it this lunchtime. Stephen will be here with the evening news summary at 7:25. The news where you are follows the national weather, but from all of us here this lunchtime. Bye bye.